Availability becomes a lot easier when you're hosted on the cloud because there's a lot of native things that you can do in the cloud to meet those availability requirements. Things like replication, things like multi-availability zones. Something as simple as when you upload something to an S3 bucket on AWS is going to automatically replicate that to out to 3 availability zones. So there's a strong kind of native control that you already have in place there. So with availability, there are other things that it will cover aside from the replication and the backup of things like business continuity and disaster recovery testing. Something that I think is really important. One of the things that I'd love to see in the next few months as we see SOC 2 reports are when we talk about business continuity and disaster recovery, are we talking about things like what just happened 2 years ago with the pandemic? Are we saying how can companies react to something that's going to make them strip away their entire physical operations? Or what are we going to do when people start to try to go back to the office? Don't recommend going back to the office. But if you work for a company that's going to make you go back to the office, what are some of the things that we're going to do to keep the business going? And then are we prepared to not to be ripped away out of the office again and go back to a fully remote environment? So that will be covered in availability, testing, the planning, and all of that stuff, as well as processing capacity. So availability is one of those common ones. I see, Carlos, that you mentioned there, and that privacy and availability would be common. Availability is really common if you're hosted in the cloud. I tell companies all the time, if you're hosted in the cloud, include availability in scope, because chances are you're probably doing those things, and chances are you've made some commitments to your customers around availability.